The Financial Times has got a plan, and it's a plan that the arch-Brexiteers, people like Mr. Farage, people like Mr. Rees-Mogg, and so on, possibly even Boris. So Boris, of course, is halfway between the two, isn't he? On the one hand, he thinks Britain should stay out. On the other hand, he thinks Ukraine should go in. Anyway, the Financial Times has got a plan, which he put forward last week, saying that Brexit will probably be considered a new English war. That's a brilliant idea. So the first English war, civil war, begins with the execution of King Charles I, and the second one effectively ends with the coronation of King Charles III. 11 years after Britain leaves the monarchy, it restores it again. 11 years after Britain leaves Europe, it goes back in. So 7 years after the 2016 referendum, we are still in a mess. Brexit has produced the most appalling chaos. 3 years after Boris got Brexit done, we're still struggling over the Northern Ireland Protocol, and we're going to end up with a sort of fudge which may possibly get things moving, but it may not. Now, Matthew Goodwin suggested that 60% of Britons now think that Brexit was wrong, and that a vote to rejoin the EU would probably work at a second referendum. A recent poll suggests that 58% of voters regret Brexit and actually favour rejoining the EU. So it's easy to see why. It's easy to see why there is so much a buyer's remorse. Because the NHS is crumbling, because the claims were that Brexit would give Britain control over its borders, which is simply not true. All it's done is to arouse a sort of racist agendum put out by people like Suella Braverman and before her by Priti Patel, and Lee Anderson, of course, is now taking up the cudgels. It's a racist agendum which particularly favours attacking other countries like Albania. It's a rather ugly sight. And as we go forward, the younger generation, the 18 to 24-year-olds, as they pick up the vote, are likely to want to rejoin. But the damage is done. And rejoining Europe will come at quite a price. It will not be on the favourable terms that we had originally. So, will there be a plot to overturn Brexit? Certainly. Is it the Labour plot? Almost certainly not. The Labour plot is all about what the article in the Financial Times calls quick fixes. Quick fixes. And quick fixes are not enough. What we need is a solid future. And the quick fixes won't do that. There will be opposition in Europe to Britain rejoining. Britain has a traitorous relationship now with Europe. Michel Barnier might be saying that the door is open, but there are plenty of others who would slam it in our face. So what are we actually going to do? The proposal put forward by the Financial Times is very simple. We have two referendums. One referendum confirms that we want to join, and the second referendum, taken a short while after, confirms the deal on which we will join. Now, Farage, of course, will be apoplectic. I think he already has been apoplectic. But in fact, Farage put forward exactly the same proposal should Remain have won in the 2016 vote. So Farage can't really object to this deal. It's exactly what he proposed. As the Financial Times put forward, it took 11 years for Britain to restore the monarchy. We may get back into Europe within 10 years, if all goes well. I personally don't see any future for Britain outside Europe. I also don't think Europe has a great future without Britain. The relationship between Europe and the continent is exactly as John Donne pointed out. No man is an island. We are part of a continent, and we are better for being part of that continent.